G'day guys. So I've been promising some contract law info for a little while now, and obviously life gets a bit busy. I wanted to make it as clean as possible and I wanted to get as much information in there as I could, but I'm just going to release it out in a few shorter videos. Now there are other good groups to get involved with, and some of those groups are like your common law groups. So Common Law Australia is bloody brilliant. I get a lot of my information from them, to be honest. So if you're after some good info, then they're a good one to get onto. If you jump on Telegram, Common Law Australia, then you'll find a lot of support there and a lot of information. So it's really good. However, I have been promising this video, so I've put together some things for you. And this is in regards to self-protection and preservation strategies. All right, so preserving your privacy. Never give your real home address to anyone electronically or over the phone. Never disclose it to the parasites, pirates, and plunderers. If people want to meet with you other than close personal friends, then they can meet you at your nominated neutral business, such as a coffee shop. Don't speak with or conduct business with anyone you don't wish or consent to. Contract law does prevail. Anyone approaching you wanting something is approaching you with an offer. No matter whether it be in writing, no matter what the paperwork is or says, or whether it's oral, it's an offer. And there is no law that compels you to accept someone's offer. You don't have to accept the offer as offer unless you're already under arrest. Contract law prevails. Now I'm going to talk about the whole warrant for arresting in a little bit. Offer and acceptance is a thing. It's real contract law, and it's something that you should look into because it will protect you in the future. So, for example, if a police officer offers you or says to you that you must come with them to the police station, you don't actually have to. That's an offer of contract. So you can say that you don't accept, nor do you consent, as is your inherent right, and doesn't contract law prevail. Now, there's no contract, and the offerer cannot force you to go with them. Force or coercion invalidates any contract because by definition contracts are entered by mutual consent. They're voluntary. Now, remember, this is only if there isn't a warrant for your arrest. You don't have to give any details at all, any information on you. Now, giving your own ID could, if it could incriminate you, then you don't actually have to give that. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit of detail right about now, actually. So that was sort of general information. Now, if you're approached on the road, you ensure that you have the following documents on hand. Notice of conditional acceptance, which is an offer to contract which the officer needs to sign, thereby taking liability for breaking the law. They won't sign and they'll let you go free. Now that here, I've got two versions of this. Now, both will work. One is a more formal looking notice here that they read. I'm going to read that to you. It says, notice to all police officers of the Commonwealth. Common law exercise of rights. No implied contract. All rights reserved. No duty to identify self. The common law does not require a citizen to identify oneself or carry identification of any sort. Now that's from Copeland v. War, 1957. No statute or authority. An ancient principle of the common law that a person not under arrest has no obligation to stop for police or answer their questions, and there is no statute that removes that. The conferring of such a power on a police officer would be a substantial detraction from the fundamental freedoms which have been guaranteed to the citizen by the common law for centuries. Justice Stephen K. Now, it goes on to give a bit more information about where that comes from. You get the police officer that has pulled you over to sign that before they do anything else. Right, so they know that if they then force you to give any information or try to take any details from you, they know that they're breaking the law. The other one is this one here, and it essentially is the same thing, but it just has a few more examples of laws that have gone through the Supreme or High Court and have not been overturned since. And I'll read some of these to you now. So, when a law of a state is inconsistent with a law of the Commonwealth, the latter shall prevail, and the former shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be invalid. The other one is a little bit more in depth with some of the examples it gives, so I'll read some of those out to you now. Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901-109. When a law of a state is inconsistent with a law of the Commonwealth, the latter shall prevail, and the former shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be invalid. Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901-18. Full faith and credit shall be given throughout the Commonwealth to the laws, the public acts and records, and the judicial proceedings of every state. Goes on. Police officers have no power whatever to arrest or detain a citizen for the purpose of questioning him or facilitating their investigations. It matters not whether the questioning or the investigation is for the purpose of enabling them to ascertain whether he is the person guilty of a crime known to have been committed, or is for the purpose of enabling them to discover whether a crime has or has not been committed. If the police do so act in purported exercise of such power, their conduct is not only destructive of civil liberties, but it is unlawful. It is an ancient principle of the common law that a person not under arrest has no obligation to stop for police or answer their questions, and there is no statute that removes that right. The conferring of such a power on a police officer would be a substantial detraction from fundamental freedoms which have been guaranteed to the citizen for centuries. It goes on to give a couple more, and then it says that none of the above precedents have been overturned or appealed in the High Court of Australia. And it says any breach of these rulings will be taken to full acceptance and knowledge of these breaches and full acceptance of liability. You are foreknoticed and forewarned. Now, you'll have the police officer sign that and print their name so that either way you have given it to them, so they are foreknoticed and forewarned. They are unlikely to sign that piece of paper, but they might try to manipulate you some more, but most of the time you'll find that they will let you go when they realise that you know what you're talking about. Don't answer their questions. Make sure you ask their questions. Do you have any evidence suggesting that I am guilty of anything? What crime has been committed out? They cannot say I'm trying to work that out. If you give me your name, then I'll just let you go. No, you don't have to give any details at all. None whatsoever. Okay, the next thing is, one thing that I haven't done yet is obtain a source document. So the document that mother completed and signed that gave rise to the birth certificate. Right, the birth certificate that's not what this is. What we want is our source document. So there's an application for registration of birth which we need to go through. I'm going to provide some information on how to do that for each state. I've only got the information for Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland at the moment. So basically what it states is any member of the public that is have no control over the holder of the source document, which is you. It is evidence that you are sovereign, which is SUVERAN, and cannot be compelled to be ordered by anyone what to do. You can simply say, no, I don't accept your offer to contract with me, nor do I consent. Right, this brings us to private property notices. So the private property notice, I've got one here for the car. This one here, right, and I'll read that to you. Now it's private property notice, non-commercial, non-resident, private property for private use, no trespass, no consent for towing, man travelling on a public right-of-way, no voluntary consent, no voluntary suretyship, no voluntary second witness, all rights and remedies reserved. Warning notice. Any damages caused will be prosecuted and penalised in common law. Any violation of this private property notice will incur a $750,000 invoice, including but not limited to garnishing of personal assets. You have been noticed and forewarned by order of the holder in due course. Now, you print 3 of these off. Put one on your dash and put one on each side of the car. Actually, you could do 4 if you wanted to. Technically, you only need one on the dash, but we like to play it safe because sometimes they'll take a photo without it showing. If you put one on the dash and on the side of the car, you'll be able to make sure that the photos that are taken, if they put for example, a ticket on your car, it might be a parking ticket. If they put a parking ticket on your car, they'll be putting it right next to one of these signs, which means they're proving themselves, they're providing the evidence that they've actually breached this private property notice. So it says here, car label is on the dashboard so that any parasite or pirate is noticed that the car is private property and used for private purposes. So anyone tampering with it is doing so illegally and under their own commercial liability. The car or bike should be left alone. So they can't tow it, they can't defect it, they can't touch it, they can't put a sticker on it, nothing. It's private property. And if they do, you sue them. I've got a friend that actually has sued them and sent them an invoice for $750,000 and is currently in negotiations for how much they're actually going to pay. But yes, you heard that correctly. They are going to pay. They have to. Ensure you keep an audio-visual recorder, which can be your mobile phone, with you to record any attempt by anyone, to solicit from you without your consent. Recording the encounter creates the evidence for your freedom and victory. Parasites and pirates grossly dislike having their plundering activities recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Protect yourself. Now, I know this for a fact. When I was being targeted by police, when I was leading the political party, I was being pulled over once a week. They were defecting me for various different, whatever they felt like on the day. I had my trailer defected for no mud flaps. Then I had my car defected for no mud flaps. Now my car is a new car. It didn't even come with mud flaps, but it's a full drive, and they defected for that. Then they defected it for the light bar. Then they pulled me over again and defected my trailer because it looked like it was over the 750 kilo rating, which is all absolute rubbish. But they were just picking on me for whatever they could. So when they pulled me over, I started recording. I let them know that they were recorded, and the police officer had come to my car, who was quite arrogant and a bit of a dickhead. He scoffed. "Oh, we've got a recorder. He's recording," which is fine. Doesn't matter, because straight away it changes the way they respond to you. Straight away. All right, so they're on their best behaviour from then on in. But you record the entire thing. And I was able to overturn the defects on my vehicle. I was able to overturn the fine that they gave me because what they did was unlawful. I was also able to send them an invoice, which we are now negotiating the terms. Invoice for damages. They put a sticker on my car, and I've stated that it has left a mark on my window and I need to replace my window. And we are now negotiating the cost of that. They also put a sticker on my trailer, which it peeled back some paint when we took it off, and so I've sent them an invoice for that as well, and that will be paid for. They won't let it go to court. Okay. So it is important that you ensure you know how to articulate your response to any approach from anyone representing a parasitic pirate or plunderer. Remember, contract law prevails. To approach you on the road or anywhere else, a police officer or any other claimant must have reasonable cause. No one has authority or jurisdiction to simply target you. You are never compelled to conduct business with anyone, the police service of your state being a corporation, operating under contract law conditions and therefore soliciting your business. You choose not to unless you are already under arrest. Otherwise, you're free to go about your business without any limitations or obstructions by anyone. There is Victorian and New South Wales case law disclosing that no one is compelled to conduct business with the police unless they are under arrest. Were you under arrest when directed to pull to the side of the road? Were you under arrest, sorry? No, you weren't. So what I can do is when they pull me over, and now I do this, when they pull me over, I can just deny them any of my information, get them to sign this, and then be on my way. Okay, so what I did though is I gave them my information because I wasn't quite confident enough in where I was with this stuff. So because they had pulled me over and they said it was your mud flaps, and then, so I thought to myself, okay, just because I'm not 100% confident, I'll do what I need to do here, and then I'll read up about it and learn a bit more about it. So when they pulled me over for the light bar, so when they pulled me over the third time And this time they pulled me over and he said, "Can I have your identification, please?" And I said, "What was the reason for being pulled over?" And he said, "Can I have your identification, please?" And I said, "You need a reason to have pulled me over before I need to give you any information." And he said, "No, I don't. You're legally required to give me your identification." So I pulled this out and I said, "Officer, this is a notice. If you can just take that for me for a second, have a look at that." I handed it to him and he took it. And I said, "If you read through that and then sign it, I'll then continue this conversation with you." He said, "Do you think this is a joke?" I said, "No, but you've now been forewarned and forenoticed. You know now, legally, we both know that I don't have to provide you with anything unless I'm under arrest. Am I under arrest, officer? You think this is a joke?" I said, "Am I under arrest, officer?" I said, "Okay, no worries, you're dismissed." And then I drove off. And he did nothing. I was, at this point, I had a lot of anxiety. He's going to follow me, he's going to pull me over, he's going to arrest me, but he actually did nothing. He did nothing because he had pulled me over for no reason at all. And he knew that. He couldn't just ask me for my ID for no reason. He knew that. And because I knew and I was confident in what I was doing, he knew that I knew my rights as well. I don't actually recommend you guys do this unless you are 100% confident in what you are doing, because they're very tricky a lot of the time. Maybe I caught him off guard, but generally they'll try to manipulate the situation. I've had an officer say, "You're stopping me from fulfilling an active investigation." I said, "Are you on an active investigation?" Are you? You got to ask them questions. Don't answer their questions. You ask them questions. "Okay, at home, much the same as above. Instead, we have a private property notice." So I'll put that up. Private property notice. I'm going to bring that one up for you. I'll post those to the Telegram account so that you can print it off. This is a protection of private property notice here that you actually get the trespasser to sign. So it says, "Private and confidential, time sensitive, estoppel conditions apply upon default." You put a date there and you say, and it says, "Warning, protection of private property notice. This is legal and lawful notice. Do not take this notice lightly nor ignore it. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. Time sensitive document, estoppel conditions will apply upon default. All addressed parties, jointly and severally, and applicable to all successors, nominees and or assigns. By me issuing this," so essentially what is going to happen is it might be a debt collector, it might be a police officer, it could be anybody coming to your home, knocking on your door, and then you saying, "Sorry, but do you have permission to be on this property?" And they say, "Oh, we just need to," No, sorry mate, you need to answer my question. Do you have permission to be on this property? Do you have an invitation, a written invitation or written permission to be on this property? "Oh, no, okay, then you need to leave. Get off my property. You need to fill out one of these," and then go from there. So this here, it says, "So by me issuing you this protection of private property notice is evidence of lawful expression of my duty of care. Notice to you to now comply with my polite but firm instruction in order to remove yourself from my property located at," then you put in the property address, "or be sued for trespass. It is my desire and will that you will not harm yourself by trespassing on my property. I do not consent to your trespass, and that you now take immediate steps to remove yourself to prevent damage to yourself by not complying with my request demands to remove yourself from my property. You have been forewarned and served notice. By order of the holder in due course, grantor of the express irrevocable trust." So essentially they then need to sign this to be able to be on your property to talk to you. So you can say to them, if they're at your door already, you can say, "If you fill this one out first, please, mate, before we can chat further." Once they've filled that out, you are still not compelled to enter any contract with them. So you have them fill this out, and then you can say, "Now get off my property. You're not welcome. Thank you for signing that. I appreciate it. Now get off." Now technically, if you have to remove them, they've already signed this stating that if they're hurt during that process, it's their own fault. They're taking full liability for that. another application for people to enter your private property, and that is this one here, application for permission to enter private property, that you can give them as well after they've signed this one, which states while they're on there they could be harmed, and it's not your fault. You've not given them any permission to be there, so you give them that one to fill out first, and then you can give them this one, which is the application for permission to enter private property. Okay, this one's 2 pages. I'm going to read this one to you. Basically, it takes down their name, their details. It takes down their insurance details, their workplace details, and then it has a reason for requiring entry to this property. They need to put that reason down. It says at the bottom here, application must always be made prior to any attempt to enter private property or trespass applies, and you will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. A non-refundable fee of $750 for each individual if visit is of a private nature. $7,500 for each individual representing a company, corporation applies, and the appropriate check must accompany each completed application for each occasion a completed application is forwarded for consideration. Due to high visitation requests, please allow up to 6 weeks processing time prior to reply notification of application outcome. Take notice. Success of applications cannot be guaranteed. The success of applications for entry to this private property is at the private property owners and holders in due course of sole discretion. Applications may be conditionally accepted or refused. No, they may be conditionally accepted or refused. Take notice, all fees are non-refundable. And then it goes into the fees, and now they need to fill this out and email it to or send it to you via post before they can actually enter your property again. You've forewarned and foreknoticed them, which then you can charge them for trespass if they do not comply with that. But as for the notices that you're going to put on your property, and like I said, I'll get that to you guys later. It looks much like the private property notice for the car that I showed you earlier, but what you'll do is you'll have one on the front gate, and then one at any point between the front gate and the front door, so on their way up, and then a third on the front door. So 3 notices and out has been successfully used many times in court. Justice Kirby, in a landmark decision in the High Court in '98, declared that no one, not even the Queen, could trespass your property without a Crown warrant. And just a side note is Crown warrants actually haven't been used in decades, so it's just not going to happen. Additional documents to keep at your fingertips: affidavit of claimants, which you pass to any intruder. So that's actually what I just gave you. One of those forms, very similar to what I've just given you. The application and the private property notice there. So they've got to fill that one out before you even talk to them. And then once they've done that, you can then give them the application and say, okay, thank you for that one. Give them the application. So now you need to actually fill out this application to be on this property. It's an application for permission to enter the private property, which you're currently trespassing. So now I will ask you to leave this property, fill that out, send it in to me, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You don't have to though. And I may or may not get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so guys, I'll just finish on this. Every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He is not bound by any institution formed by his fellow men without his consent. Cruden v. Neal, ZNC 338, May term 1796. That's all I have time for today. Next time we could potentially get into housing titles and land titles and some of the other nitty-gritty stuff that's important to all of us. And until then, guys, thank you for listening and for your encouragement. And yeah, we'll chat soon.